Hello friends, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha and today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I hope to read in the month of June. I feel like I said this in April, but I'm going to say it again for May. I really feel like May was a reading slump month for me. I read really slowly and I only finished a couple of books. The first week of May, I hosted Readathon with my friend Ashley, and I think that just kind of burnt me out a little bit, reading so many books in a week. So the rest of the month was pretty slow for me. But I'm hoping to redeem myself in June. There's lots of fun things going on. It's summertime, and I'm also going to be hosting a summer readathon called Suns Out, Books Out with my friends Liv from Liv's Library, Lauren from Lauren Love Reads, Elizabeth from Ponytails and Paperbacks, and Mackenzie from The Literary Lane. I'm very excited to be hosting with these girls. It's going to be from June 20th through the 26th. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys my Readathon TBR first, and then we'll go into the books that I'm going to read the other time during June. Also, before we get started, I am going to go through the reading prompts here, but if you want to know all of the details on the Readathon, go ahead and check the link in the description box below to my announcement video, and you can figure out all the details and see if you want to participate in the Readathon as well. The first reading prompt is to read a book with yellow on the cover, and for that one I have chosen The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This has been on countless TBRs before. I have wanted to read this every summer and I still haven't read it yet. So I'm hoping that this summer will be the one. I'm very excited about this one because one, it's by Christina Lauren, which is an author duo that I've really enjoyed in the past. Their book, Love in Other Words, is one of my all-time favorite romances. I don't read a lot of romances, but I will say that theirs are some of my favorites, so I have high hopes for this one. This, from what I can tell, is an enemies to lovers story, and it's about this girl whose sister has a wedding, and in the wedding, the sister's husband's best man is actually her arch nemesis. So she's not really excited about her sister's wedding because he's going to be there. She doesn't want to deal with him. And then everybody in the wedding party ends up getting food poisoning except for her and the guy that she doesn't like that's the best man. So they end up having to take the honeymoon trip that the bride and groom were supposed to take. So they're pretending to be the bride and groom to go on this honeymoon so it's not wasted. And so it seems like it's going to be an enemies to lover type story. I'm not sure if I like those or not because I don't think I've ever read one. So I'm very excited for this to be my first one. I feel like a lot of people like this book. It's supposed to be really funny and humorous and summery, and I'm very excited about it. So that is going to be my book with yellow on the cover. The next prompt is to read a chiller or a chill thriller, and for that one I'm going to be using the group read for our readathon, which is The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. This is a book that involves a summer camp and these three girls that end up finding a dead body in the lake. And so we're trying to figure out what happens. I think it's the ex-boyfriend of one of the girls in the friend group. So they're trying to figure out who did it and can they trust their friends? Can they trust the people around them at this camp? And I think it's going to be really fun. It's a YA thriller. I'm very excited that we chose it for the Readathon because it kind of gives me Pretty Little Liars vibes, and it also kind of gives me The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager vibes, and I loved both of those, so definitely going to use that one for the chiller prompt. Next prompt is to read a book chosen by a friend. So Lauren, Liv, and Elizabeth have all read Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I have never read an Emily Henry book. This is the one that I wanted to start with, and so technically they kind of helped me choose this because I know they want me to read it as well and get into Emily Henry. Everybody's reading book lovers right now, but I'm the kind of person that I kind of want to start at the beginning. I know this isn't her first book, but this is the first one that I'm really interested in. So all that I know about this one is you have Augustus, who is a writer and he writes literary fiction, and then you have January, who is also a writer and she writes romance. Both of them are staying at neighboring beach houses, but I think this is actually set at a lake, or the time at the beach is very minimal. So beach read really, I guess, should be lake read. I don't know, but I know that going in, so hopefully I won't be disappointed. Anyways, they both have writer's block, and so they strike up this deal where instead of writing a romance, January is going to try to write Augustus's literary fiction novel, and he is going to try to write January's romance novel. So they're going to end up falling in love along the way, I assume. So that sounds like a really cute one. I haven't read romance in a really long time, and I'm really wanting to get into it again this summer. I always hope to, and then I don't. So I'm hoping that this is going to be my fix of romance for the summer. The next prompt is to read a book with a beach, island, or ocean setting. And for this one, I'm going to read Tide Song. I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head because I don't have this book on hand with me. I'm going to be renting it out from my library, and I'm very excited about it. I don't really remember what it's about, but it's a graphic novel. It's middle grade. I think it has to do with a sea dragon or something like that. So it's got a fantasy element and sea creatures and things of that sort. It just looks really cute, and I feel like I've heard good things about it, so I definitely wanted to pick a graphic novel, because we all know when you do a readathon, it's really good to have shorter books to get through. And then the last prompt is to read a book while on a picnic, so I could read any of these books on a picnic. We'll just see which one it happens to be. So for the rest of the month, I'm going to be leisure reading. I only have 4 books here that I plan on getting to in June outside of the readathon. I may read more, but I don't want to stick myself to a really rigid TBR because I've been in a slump, so I'm trying to take it easy. But there are some books that I'm really excited to get to. One book that I have been reading for a little bit is Find Your People by Jenny Allen. This is the friendship book that I've been reading for the past couple of months with Liv, Lauren, and Elizabeth. So I'm very excited to continue on with this. This has been such a good book to read with them, especially, and just to kind of have somebody to talk through things with. I'm someone who values my friendships. I care deeply and I love hard. And sometimes that means I can be a little bit much. Sometimes I overshare. Sometimes I get attached and then get my heart broken. I sound like I'm in a relationship, but honestly, like, friendships are relationships. So this has been a really positive book for me to read and just kind of glean some insight from Jenny Allen on how to have Christian friendships, what's healthy and what's not. And like I said, it's been very good to go through this with the girls so we can kind of process everything together, get our thoughts out, and I'm very excited to finish it up. We've only got 4 chapters left, so it won't be too much longer before we're done. And then I feel like we need another book like this because I really enjoyed this one. Then I'm very, 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 very excited to be buddy reading this. I believe I'm going to buddy read it with Lauren and Elizabeth. So this is Sundial by Katrina Ward, and I'm very excited to read this because I'm very excited to read all of these books. I'm being so repetitive, but I'm especially excited to read this one because she wrote The Last House on Needless Street, which is currently my favorite book of the year and my favorite book of all time. So I don't really remember what this one's about, so I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for this. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It says, "You can't escape what's in your blood. All Rob wanted was a normal life. She almost got it too. A husband, 2 kids, a nice house in the suburbs. But Rob fears for her oldest daughter, Callie, who collects tiny bones and whispers to imaginary friends. Rob sees a darkness in Callie, one that reminds her too much of the family she left behind. She decides to take Callie back to her childhood home, to Sundial, deep in the Mojave Desert, and there she will have to make a terrible choice. Callie is worried about her mother. Rob has begun to look at her strangely and speaks of past secrets. Callie fears that only one of them will leave Sundial alive. The mother and daughter embark on a dark desert journey to the past in the hopes of redeeming their future." That sounds so good. I'm a little bit scared about it being like a kid, like if this is potentially a story where the child is anything like, you know, there's those books that people write about like psychotic children, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit. I'm not a mom yet, but like it makes me a little paranoid regardless. So I'm a little bit nervous that that's going to go in that direction. I don't know if I'll like it or not. There's been books that I haven't liked that deal with like kid relationships or mom and daughter relationships that are a little bit like scary to me. Like The Push by Ashley Audrain was one that I absolutely did not like. The writing was beautiful, but I hated that story. So I hope that I love this one. Katrina Ward just does writing so well. She really draws me into a story. I thought The Last House on Needless Street was such a weird book, and I'm expecting this one to be weird too, and I'm hoping that I'm really going to love it. I'm very excited to be buddy reading it too, because I wish that I would have had somebody to buddy read The Last House on Needless Street with, because I was blowing up Lauren and Elizabeth's messages with just like all my thoughts throughout the way, which was so fun to talk with them about it. So I'm excited to talk with them as we read this one together. The next book I hope to read is The Children on the Hill by Jennifer Mcmahon. This should be a shock to you because I was supposed to read this last month, but I was in a slump and I did not want to read this when I wasn't in a good reading mood. So I'm hoping to read it this month. I am nervous about it. I feel like most people are really enjoying this, but because it kind of draws from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I'm a little bit nervous about it because Honestly, I'm not sure if Frankenstein's my thing, but this follows this woman, this grandmother who has 2 grandchildren. This takes place in 1978. The beginning does. It's dual timelines. This grandmother, she's Dr. Helen Hildreth. She is acclaimed for her compassionate work with the mentally ill, but when she's home, she's just the cherished grandmother of Violet and Eric. One day, the grandmother brings home Iris, who is not quite a normal girl, and she ends up joining the monster club that Violet and Eric are a part of. They created this monster club where they catalog all kinds of monsters and dream up ways to defeat them. So all of this happens, and Vi thinks like monsters are everywhere, so there's something going on there, obviously. Then you have the 2019 timeline with Lizzie Shelley, who's the host of a popular podcast called Monsters Among Us. She's traveling to Vermont, where a young girl has been abducted and a monster sighting has the town in an uproar, and she's determined to hunt it down because Lizzie knows better than anyone that monsters are real, and one of them is her very own sister. I want to love this. I hope I do. I hope the Frankenstein thing doesn't like throw me off from it, because I just don't know if that's my vibe or not. But I love that it sounds like obviously the grandmother is a child therapist. I think that's really interesting. I love mind games and mind stuff, so I'm intrigued by that part. And I love that there's dual timelines. We know that I love Jennifer McMahon and her writing, so hopefully this will at least be a 4-star for me, but I would love it if it could be a 5. And the last book that I plan to read is Where the Crawdads Sing by Dalia Owens. I've been meaning to read this for a long time, but since the movie comes out, I believe in July, I want to go ahead and try to read this in June. And I think I'm going to see if my mom and my grandmother might want to read this with me as well. I know my mom had told me that she'd heard about this movie coming out and she might want to borrow the book from me. So either I'll read it and then let her and my grandmother borrow it, or maybe I'll get them their own copy. I don't know, but I would love to read this with them, talk about it with them, and then maybe even eventually watch the movie together. I'll probably see it before then, but I definitely want to do that. I don't really remember what this is about. I know it's like a Southern mystery. It takes place in North Carolina, and it's set in the 60s, and there's a girl named Marsh Girl, and she is sensitive and intelligent. She's survived for years alone in the marsh that she calls home. I don't really know anything about it. There's just like a mystery that goes on here. I think it's a mix between kind of like a mystery and a regular like contemporary story, possibly coming of age. But yeah, I don't really know that much about it. I just know that everybody raves about it. So I hope that this ends up being a 5-star read for me. But like I said, I'm very excited to read this one. I want to make sure to read it before I watch the movie, and hopefully the movie will be good too. All right, y'all, that is all the books that I plan on reading in the month of June. Let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them. And also let me know if you're going to be participating in the Readathon that we're hosting, the Suns Out Books Out, from June 20th through the 26th. And then let me know what is one book that you are most excited to read this month as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, friends.